Is the Alliance of American Football going to stick around forever? Maybe, maybe not. Like a strong cup of coffee to wake us up after a Super Bowl that put us to sleep, the AAF may ultimately be just a fad like the USFL, the XFL, the UFL, or Antonio Brown's bleached mustache. But that doesn't mean we can't enjoy it right now, and it doesn't mean that this upstart league is without significance. The mark of any successful new football league dating back to 1960 isn't its ability to compete with the NFL, it's the ability to force the NFL to adapt, to get better, to correct problems that it wasn't aware of until another league pointed them out. The AAF's legacy will come down to how it changes the NFL, and I'm gonna tell you how it will right after this.
Fellas, it's finally March, and do you know what that means? It means spring break is just around the corner, and if you plan on getting anywhere near some thotties in the nice weather that's coming up, you better have things in order. And I'm not talking about travel arrangements, I'm talking about the jungle you've allowed to grow down there. And that's where Manscaped comes in. It's not spring break 2019, welcome to Springscaped. At Springscaped, you need yourself a clipper that was designed by aerospace engineers to clear the landing area for the ladies who would otherwise be outright horrified by what you've allowed to happen down there. The Lawnmower 2.0 does not cut you and slices through your jungle foliage like there is no tomorrow, just like spring break. And you know what they say, when you trim down the bushes, the tree looks bigger. And let's not forget about all the gear you can get in the perfect package. The plow for difficult hair, crop preserver, crop cleanser, crop reviver, grooming tools, and everyone's favorite, crop mop, wipes for your balls. 10 out of 10 would recommend. So before you book your flight to Cancun, or if you just want to be respectful to the ladies this spring, awkwardly run over to manscaped.com from the link below. Type in my code POINT20 and get 20% off your order. Again, that's code POINT20 for 20% off your first order. Get ready for Springscape 19 in style. And if you act now, we'll throw in the Shed travel bag for free. Manscaped.com, #1 in below the waist grooming.
So what changes can the AAF force the NFL to make? To answer that question, let's go back in time to the early 60s when the NFL faced its most viable competition, the upstart American Football League. Back in the days of Kennedy, the Beatles, Vietnam, and Adam Vinatieri's first few years in the league, the NFL was a rigid, one-note type of league that was still vying with baseball for the hearts of American viewers. Its identity was simple, if not repetitive. 3 yards and a cloud of dust. Vince Lombardi's famous sweep plays to Jim Taylor, Jim Brown dominating the running lanes, Gale Sayers occasionally taking the ball outside the hash marks. It was regal. It was traditional, but it lacked excitement. Enter the AFL, a league predicated on the forward pass, big-name quarterbacks like Jack Kemp and Broadway Joe, and high-scoring football. By the time the two leagues agreed to merge in 1966, the AFL brought about changes the NFL would adopt, such as a 14-game schedule, a more aerodynamic ball to promote passing, players' names on the back of their jerseys, and revenue sharing. Even something as simple as showing the official time on the scoreboard was an invention of the AFL. Fast forward a couple decades, the USFL was now trying to compete with the NFL head-on. Although despite stealing future Hall of Famers like Steve Young, Jim Kelly, Sam Mills, and Reggie White, the league crumbled after an ill-advised decision by New Jersey Generals owner Donald Trump to move the league to the fall. The USFL ultimately was awarded $3.76 in their lawsuit against the big boys, but the NFL was rewarded with new innovations like instant replay and the two-point conversion. Hell, despite being an absolute train wreck that was fraught with horrible decisions like the opening scramble and banning fair catches, the XFL gave football viewers the Sky Cam, which is still utilized by the NFL today. With all that in mind, what features make the Alliance of American Football so unique that it can force the NFL to adapt changes? Number 1, more picture-in-picture commercials. The NFL has already started experimenting with 30-second commercials that air without cutting to a full break from the action and has generally been received well. However, the AAF took it up a notch during their first season and had nearly all of their ads running on the right-hand side of the screen while the game cuts through downtime on the left. Don't expect the NFL to ever go all in on this style of broadcast simply because there's too much money to be made otherwise. But the more streamlined airing of commercials cuts down the overall game length and saves saves the teams from waiting around for the TV audience to return before the play clock starts back up. In a game that averages only about 11 minutes of action, this is one of many ways to keep the game from stretching out beyond 3 hours. AAF games are only scheduled to last 2.5 hours, and while it sometimes exceeds that time frame, viewers can be a little more forgiving when there's only a couple of real commercial breaks that would cause the casual viewer to change the channel. Number 2, the wisdom of the sky judge. Don't you wish there was an all-knowing, omnipotent being in the sky to tell you what was wrong and right in your personal life? The AAF has that, and it's called the sky judge, or my Asian mother.
You doctor yet?
Whenever there's a missed call, a non-call, or a bad spot, an official watching an all 22 feet of the game can chime in and reverse the call in the field, overruling the officials with their almighty sky judging wisdom. It might step on the egos of everyone on the field, but the important part is getting the call right. Considering how bad of a year NFL officials had in 2018, from issues ranging from roughing the passer to temporary blindness, I think everyone would be willing to turn over final judgment to the sky judge to make sure the integrity of the game wins out over human error. Because when we live in a sky judgment free zone, that's how this becomes a clean play and the wrong team goes to the Super Bowl, causing this. Number 3, onside conversions. After the NFL banned running starts on kickoffs in 2018, the onside kick was rendered near impossible, dropping successful kick recovery rates from 21% in 2017 to just 8%. Essentially, if you had hopes of mounting a comeback, don't count on getting the ball back via the onside kick. But the AAF has a solution. Since they've removed kickoffs altogether, they've instead opted to use the opportunity for an onside conversion. The onside conversion is essentially a 4th and 12 from your own 28-yard line. Convert that play, and the offense remains on the field. Come up short, and the opposing team gets great field position. It's definitely a far cry from what the NFL has used throughout their history, and it gives a huge advantage to teams with great quarterbacks as opposed to skilled kickoff specialists and hands teams. But it's more in line with the spirit of the game and forces a team to rely on their best players to make a play rather than their reserves. Packers fans know what I'm talking about. Damn, son. Number 4, grounds for experimentation. It seems like every year in the NFL there's some kind of outcry for a new rule. Most recently, a new overtime system that allows both offenses to touch the ball. But it's hard for the NFL to implement a rule that hasn't been tested. That's where the Alliance comes into play. They provide a lower stakes setting where the boundaries of the game can be tested, giving the NFL 80 regular season games worth of data to see if a particular rule change is worth the trouble in the first place. Of course, this may only work with the AAF because they aspire to be a minor league to the NFL rather than direct competitors. So while the XFL would probably tell the NFL to kick rocks if they asked them to try out, say, a shorter play clock, the Alliance would presumably accept the role of corporate guinea pig. Number 5, ref development. The biggest plague in the NFL from the start of the preseason to the final whistle in February was, without a doubt, officiating. There's no doubt the refs need some additional seasoning before getting a shot at the big leagues, as evidenced by the influx of new officials and missed calls last season. Someone should make a video on that. The AAF is just another place to get experience. Like with the players themselves, officials can hone their craft, their vision, their ability to turn down bribes, basically everything. This would also mean not having to call up middle school basketball refs to award possession to Golden Tate again if there's another strike by the regular officials. Sorry again, Packers fans. Of course, there are some things here and there that give the Alliance its charm that can't be and most certainly won't be replicated in the NFL. For instance, it's fun to listen to Steve Spurrier yell at his players from the sideline while mic'd up.
Quit seeing Roger lead. Tell him to catch it this time.
But don't expect NFL coaches to wear a wire at any point. Plus, whoever has to cut the audio to avoid an F-bomb would probably sue the league after Bill O'Brien's tirades give them carpal tunnel. There's also the matter of 2-point conversions. After every touchdown in the Alliance comes a mandatory 2-point conversion. While it makes for some unique scores and situations and reduces the chance a kicker will embarrass himself, that's a wholesale change to the fabric of the game that the NFL likely won't adopt. However, that's the point of leagues like the Alliance of American Football. Like was the case with the AFL and the USFL, they're here to experiment, to push the envelope, and to progress the game of football as we know it. Not every rule in the AAF may be an improvement on the existing products, but the NFL will certainly consider the ones that are. and whether or not it's a league that's here to stay. That's how the AAF's legacy will be judged, or sky judged rather.
When the ball hits the ground, I'm going to let this stand.
One eternity later.
Wait a minute, 1 second. We've got an elbow down. It's got it and touched. Nope, we're going to overturn this and reverse this to a catch in the end zone.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to check out my sponsor, manscaped.com, and enter in my code POINT20 for 20% off your first order. And don't forget to like, comment, and of course subscribe for more interesting videos on sports. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to the end of this video.